Now, Reform UK is holding its sold-out South East conference today as the party is polling joint first, neck and neck, with Labour on 25%. And talking about neck and neck, I'm now joined live from Sandown Racecourse in Surrey by GBNews political editor Chris Hope, who I believe is with the outside favourite, who now seems to be neck and neck with the Prime Minister. You're joined by Mr. Nigel Farage. Chris, over to you.
Martin, that's right. With me now is Nigel Farage, of course, the Reform UK leader. We're at a racecourse. Nigel Farage, you're creeping ahead. You're neck and neck. Will you streak ahead? But will you fall at the final hurdle?
Well, I don't know. It depends whether it's a flat race or a jump race, doesn't it, Chris? Yeah, we're here at Sandown Park tonight. I've organised a whole series of these meetings to get the party ready for the county council elections on May the 1st. So the group here tonight have come from Kent, Surrey, East and West Sussex. Now, as it turns out, I should have booked a much bigger venue because we were literally sold out of tickets within 48 hours. But we've learned within the last hour that all of the county councils represented here, and I've got a room full of candidates, of agents, of people getting ready, that all of those councils have applied for this year's elections to be cancelled. To be literally to be cancelled. And the government have this devolution plan. They want to get rid of county councils, district councils, put unitaries in, some new obscure idea of mayors for regions or counties, which, by the way, no one's ever asked for or ever voted for. And it looks like over 10 million people who were due to have a vote 4 years on from the last time for their local representatives are going to be denied that. And this is an act of cowardice on behalf of the Conservatives that run all of these councils. They don't want to face reform on May the 1st. They know they're going to lose their jobs, and also lose their money. It's an act of cowardice, it's a denial of democracy, and frankly, it's a disgrace.
They've asked permission of the government to delay. The government doesn't have to grant it, does it? They're going to grant 10 or 12 the right to delay. There are 21 counties, so around half will go ahead. And also on mayors, aren't you standing Dame Andrea Jenkins in one of these seats? Surely you support some of this work.
Well, we had MEPs that went to Brussels. We didn't believe in being in the European Union. We still fought the seats. And yeah, Andrea will stand. But how it's all going to work, I don't know. Because the mayors will have power over planning and transport. So what does that mean the unitaries are going to do? I mean, the whole thing is a dog's dinner. I would say this to you. The big reorganisations, I mean, here we are in Surrey. Apparently, this big reorganisation won't be ready until 2028. Well, why not go ahead with the elections? Because that's nearly the whole of the term. There is no logical argument for this whatsoever, other than both the government in certain parts of the north and the Conservative Party in most of the south don't want to face reform. That is what is happening. I am very, very angry about this, as should voters be.
But there'll be votes next year, won't there? I mean, delaying by a year in an electoral cycle, if they're allowed to vote next year in those seats you mentioned, what's wrong with that?
Well, it may be 2028. So you could find a Conservative county councillor elected in 2021, when the Tory party was riding high, holding that seat for 7 years, which is no longer representative of the way politics is. No, it's outrageous.
What's going on in your party? Howard Cox says he was forced out because he had some support for Tommy Robinson. Are you purging supporters of him?
No, Howard Cox made a silly comment. The whole country is run by immigrants. Well, that's clearly not true. Yes, he supports Tommy Robinson. Well, look, fine. If people want to like the guy, that's fine. But don't advocate that he should join our party, because let Robinson do what the hell he wants to do. We're a political party, and never the twain shall meet.
Is that a deal breaker now? So any members of your party who say, I support Tommy Robinson, will be ejected?
Well, no, you can support him. I mean, I don't think he should be in solitary confinement. I think that's wrong. I think he's been dealt with very harshly, but he is a repeated lawbreaker over many, many years. Violence, entering America on a false passport. I mean, it's a list as long as your arm, and that doesn't suit a political party. So people can say, look, we admire what he said about grooming gangs or what else, but please don't tell me he should be part of reform. That doesn't work.
I only ask because last week in Leicester, two of those individuals in the audience shouted at Lee Anderson, we want Tommy Robinson, or showed support. Why aren't those guys being chucked out of your conferences?
Well, I think Lee made it perfectly clear, shut up or get out. and 998 didn't say that.
Elon Musk, of course, been a lot of talking about him over the grooming gangs. Reports today that a Home Office anti-extremism group is watching his tweets. What's your reaction to that?
I just think we're headed towards a world where the Labour government, I think its instinct is to try and suppress what is going on X. And even if you find some of Musk's comments a bit rich, he's brought free speech back to the internet. And that's why I've always said he's a hero.
He's not, is he, to Jess Phillips? I mean, people who are on the wrong end of his tweeting is not a nice place to be, is it? I mean, you can say that from your position of some influence. What about people who are being attacked by him?
Yeah, Jess Phillips, who accuses to his face George Galloway of being a rape apologist, that's okay. But as soon as someone says it to her, it's not okay. The double standards and hypocrisy we've seen from the Labour Party over this whole mass rape scandal has been astonishing.
What's the progress on your independent inquiry into the rape gang scandal? Have you raised the money yet?
No, I haven't started. I've just said if the government don't do it, we will do it. But I think what you saw yesterday was Andy Burnham, very prominent Labour figure, coming out, backing the inquiry. YouGov polling out today, suggesting 76% of the country support an inquiry. And I think with those moves, with a softening of Sir Keir Starmer's language at Prime Minister's questions yesterday, and with the threat that Reform are going to do it anyway, I think he'll buckle. If he doesn't, I'll raise the money and get on with it.
He says he'll listen to the victims, doesn't he? If more victims come forward, that may lead to that inquiry.
The problem with this from day one is the victims weren't listened to, the victims weren't believed, and social services, local police forces, the victims have never had a voice in any of this. And that's why we need to have a full inquiry. But just as important as the victims is the cover-up. Why? Why were social services covering up what they knew to be true? Why were the police covering it up? Why were the Crown Prosecution Service?
Well, they worried about racial tensions, weren't they? We know this.
So it's okay for white people to be abused, but it's not okay for Muslims to feel unwanted. Is that what you're telling me? I mean, is that really what we did? Because it sounds like it is, and that's wrong.
In terms of Elon Musk, would he fund your inquiry?
Oh, I've no idea. I've no idea. There are plenty of people in Britain that I'm absolutely certain would, because I think we've had enough of two-tier. And you've just articulated it a moment ago. One group in the community being treated totally separately to another group in the community, raising money for something that shines a light on what might be the single worst evil we've seen in Britain in modern times. I promise you, if I have to do this, it won't be a problem.
It's a big year for you, 2025. The right is split. You're doing well in the polls now. You're tied at 25 points each, according to one poll. Other polls say on average you're just behind the Tory party in third place. Why not do a deal with the Tories? Why not unite the right, Nigel Farage?
You're too old, Chris. You've been around too long. The Tory party's dying. And the only people that can't see it are those in Westminster, because things are as they've always been. Get out into the country. The party is dying. We've not reached the floor for the Conservative Party by a very, very long way. I'm obviously delighted that we've made that breakout moment, that we're now showing ahead of them in the polls, and I reckon that gap will continue to widen. And I wouldn't do a deal. No, hang on. I wouldn't do a deal with people that have been so dishonest so often with the electorate.
A year ago you were on about 16 points. Now you're 23, 24. Where will you be this time next year?
If I knew that, I'd go, the tote's just down there. I'd go put my money. I don't know. All I can tell you is, right now, there's big momentum behind Reform, massive membership growth, huge energy and enthusiasm. I mean, this lot in the hall tonight, initially would be very disappointed that the elections are cancelled, but it's not going to stop them.
There's talk of a deal happening in Ashfield on the council level with Reform Tory deal. Is that happening?
Well, one Reform councillor and one Tory councillor have got together to form a group, and that means the Reform councillor can stay on the audit committee to see where money's being spent. I wouldn't take any wider implication from that whatsoever.
I'll ask you about is there a Reeves recession coming? Are you worried about the economy, the 1970s spectre hanging over this country at the moment, according to the reporting?
I've said from the very start, I didn't think Rachel Reeves was up to the job. I had no idea how bad she'd be. I think between her and Starmer, the air of negativity has been talking us into recession. The economy works on confidence. And these guys don't exude any confidence at all. And you're right, 10-year, 30-year gilts, look where the interest rates are going, sterling's falling. Forget Liz Truss, forget the Truss chaos. This is very, very real. And the one thing I'm certain of is this government, who talk about growth all the time, there won't be any. We are going into recession.
Very finally, are you on dry January?
I am. What's the date today? The 11th. There you are.
Will you last?
Yeah, no problem. Well, I would, but the inauguration in America does worry me slightly.
Nigel Farage there, Martin. He's off the booze, but he's here talking to 800 or so supporters later on here in Stanton Park.
OK, thank you very much. Toast of the town there, Chris Hope. Thank you very much there from Sandown with Nigel Farage. Excellent stuff. Thank you very, very much indeed.